Hi guys, hope you're well today. Today's video I am reviewing Legally Blonde, a Leicester Curve production. Now I've seen Legally Blonde in London so many times with Sheridan Smith, Duncan James, Richard Fleeshman, and then with Carly and with Susan McFadden. I've seen loads of different L's and I've always loved the London production, and I did go and see it on tour a couple of times with Faye Brooks and Neil Toon and Matthew Kelly, and I loved it then as well. So when Leicester announced that they were doing their own production of Legally Blonde, my interest was piqued straight away, but I didn't want to book until I knew the cast that were in it. And when the cast was announced, then I was definitely booked and convinced to go. Me and my friend Julie went on the 23rd of April and we went to the matinee showing. We had Lucy Jones as Elle Woods, we had John Robbins as Emmett, we had Danny Mac as Warner, we had Ian Kelsey, famous from TV and movie fame, as Professor Callahan, we had Tepele Dorgu, who is from Coronation Street and she's done Chicago, as Paulette, and we had Natalie Hope as Brooke Wyndham. And I have to say, first things first, I loved Legally Blonde. I've always loved the score and the music of it, and in that way it didn't disappoint me too much, but there were some changes to the Leicester Curve production. There were maybe a verse or two in some songs that were missing, or some songs had been changed the tempo and were slightly different to how they'd been done in London, which some worked and some didn't. There was a change to the reggae scene where Elle's studying for her LSATs, and that I wasn't so keen on. It changed from being Jamaican to Bhangra, and I didn't really understand why the need to change it, because the reggae in London was done by Chris Ellis Stanton, and obviously, you know, he's not from Jamaica or whatever, but he carried the reggae off. Oh, I really don't want to sound racist when I say this. And then for some reason they changed it to Bollywood in Leicester, and listening back to it, it's growing on me as the Bollywood, but I do still prefer the reggae, and I don't understand why they felt the need to change it. Also, So Much Better starts off with a much slower tempo, but I really liked that actually. I thought that was really great. One thing that bugged me about the Legally Blonde set at the Leicester Curve was that basically there was hardly any. I sat on the front row and it was a very, very bare stage. Literally there were bits that rolled on and off on occasion, some bits that came through the floor, but the stage just looked really empty. And before the show they had this screen that started off at an angle quite low, and when the music started for the intro, it sort of went up and sort of folded kind of flat almost, and then there was another screen at the back, and to be honest, the screen at the back, which was hiding the band, would have been enough. I didn't really see the point of the one up at the top, to be honest, throughout the whole show, because it was just portraying the sky, and I just thought, unnecessary. Like, if it had a function, great, but the screen at the back of the stage was quite enough for the projections, I would say. And that's another thing, I loved the projections for Act 2 that they had for Brooke Wyndham and her fitness workout video. That was amazing. I really liked that. It felt very kind of like 80s fitness style video, but it was really, really cool, well done, and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, for set design, I would say if I had to give it out of 10, I'd give it maybe a 4. And that's being generous, I'm afraid. Story Leicester Curve. Let's talk about the cast, because that's all we really want to talk about, I think. Lucy Jones, she makes a fabulous Elle Woods. I totally loved her, and being so close to the front row was amazing, getting to see all her facial expressions, and she just carried off Elle so well. Very different from Sheridan Smith certainly, and from Carly, and I just loved her portrayal. Her version of What You Want was really, really good, and her Legally Blonde was very, very moving, I thought, and that was very well done against John Robbins, who plays Emmett. And John Robbins, he was quite imposing actually, and I thought he was quite stern, and at first I didn't think he's never going to get with Elle, even though I knew he would, because the way John Robbins was portraying Emmett, he was very sort of fierce and quite strict, and I thought, how is this going to happen? But then he sort of had this progression of mellowing over the course of Act 1 and Act 2, and I really liked the way he did that, because I've never seen that before. Whereas Emmett's in London, I've seen, have been always very jovial and very nice and straight away like good to Elle kind of thing. John Robbins had this air of like being a bit more harsher on her, and it just made the relationship between Elle and Emmett slightly more believable in a way, I think. Danny Warner, he was really good. Really enjoyed his performance. It was great to see him back on stage, because I'd previously seen him as an understudy for Bock in Wicked, and I think Warner is a slightly bigger part than Bock is, and so it was great to see him act a lot more rather than sing. But his singing was good, and his serious was brilliant. Topele Dorgu as Paulette, I wasn't very keen on it, I'll be honest. I've seen Jill Halfpenny and Sorrel Marsh and Liz McClarnon. I've seen loads of Paulettes, and I don't think she quite compared to any of those guys. She was a lot, I don't know. There was just something about her Paulette I couldn't connect with, and I just didn't enjoy her performance at all. Sorry to Pele. Ian Kelsey as Callahan, he was another one that unfortunately didn't impress. I think the problem was I thought he was just too young for the role. Having seen older Callahans, he just wasn't as... I found Emmett more scary in the beginning than Ian Kelsey as Callahan, which is just weird. So I think Ian Kelsey, although he did the job as well as he could, I don't think he was I don't think he's old enough for the role, and it kind of showed a little bit. But yeah, his Blood in the Water was okay. He just didn't seem like a Harvard law professor to me. Now, the sorority girls in London, it's always been 3 girls, Margot, Serena, Pilar, and for this performance we were down a Serena, but it was great. We had Pilar and Margot, played by Francesca Hoffman and Genesis Linnea as Pilar, and it was great how they managed to do a cut show, because the Leicester Curve didn't have any swings or understudies for any of the roles, and they just divvied up Serena's lines between them and changed bits that were obviously Serena's lines, and it worked fine. It seemed to pay homage to the movie in that respect, because in the movie they only have 2 friends of Elle, but those are Serena and Margot, whereas this was Margot and Pilar. But it was so good, like you'd never have noticed if you were new to Legally Blonde that there's supposed to be 3. I believe they've brought in someone now to play Serena, while the main girl, Christina Hoey, is off poorly. So I wish I could go back and see it again just to see how it works with the 3 girls. And that was the thing, the female ensemble was very, very small, and like the cast is quite small. So when you've got an empty stage, going back to the lack of set, it kind of makes it look worse to me to have a very small cast on a bare empty stage. A standout for me was Natalie Woods as Enid Hoops. She was brilliant. I loved her. She's so sassy and so funny, and her interaction with Elle in the classroom scene before Blood in the Water, she's like, really, oh, get off me, you're such a ditz, you know. I loved that. I loved her interaction with Lucy Jones. That was amazing, and she just stood out for me in Legally Blonde Remix as well. There was also some changes as well, like certain characters who in London have been one gender were actually another. So in the oh my god sequence with the sales assistant, that was a man. And in the hairdressers, Kiki has gone from being a man to a woman. But it all worked very well. Like I say, if you were new to Legally Blonde, you'd never know that that was not how it was in London. But because I had seen it in London so many times, little things like that just stood out to me. Phoebe Street as Vivian Kensington. I liked her. I wasn't as convinced by her as Vivian with Warner compared to other Vivians that I've previously seen, but she was really good and she held her own. And in the Legally Blonde remix, she's like, rah! And I loved it. The only thing was, the only minor, tiny little thing in it is her costume for before the blood in the water scene when all the cast are coming on. But I love the choreography of Legally Blonde between Emmett and Elle, just moving around the stage is choreography, obviously, and the way that was done was really clever. And oh my god, you guys, that was a brilliant sequence. I loved Oh My God, but there were some scenes where the choreography I felt was a little bit lackluster, and I felt like it could have been bigger, but then I think that would have maybe have been because it would have been better with a bigger cast. I didn't recognise her as Vivian straight away because another actress called Rebecca Jane Davis, who plays Kate, Whitney and Chutney, the Kate, Whitney, Chutney character had the same colour costume as the Vivians I'd seen in London and on tour. They wore black, and so the Whitney character wore black, and the costume looked very similar to the ones I'd seen Vivian wear in London, so it threw me when the scene started and it was then apparent that Vivian was wearing white and had a blue jumper like wrapped around her neck kind of thing, like a proper like preppy tennis girl. But that was good, that was a nice little change. But yeah, I was really thrown because I thought as soon as the actress in black came on, I was like, oh, that's Vivian, and it wasn't, and I was like, oh, okay, that's different. But yeah, just minor little things like that. After the show as well, we did meet some of the cast, and it was really nice to meet them. The stage door is actually the lift area in the Leicester Curve. And what was really interesting was after coming out of the show, they have these they have a wall that can move up and down, and after coming out you could actually see the stage and the props and like the backstage area. So it was really fun to see all the props and all the costumes, them being set out and everything being got ready for the evening show. That was really, really cool, and like almost like a tour in a way, because you could just walk along and see all the little bits and see the backstage crew like doing their jobs, which was really, really fun. So this was a very good, solid production of Legally Blonde at the Leicester Curve. Again, like I said, there were things I'd liked and things I didn't like about the production, but it was never going to be a carbon copy of London, it couldn't be. And I would urge everyone who can go and see it to go and see it. It's not on for very long, so you have to hurry and get your tickets. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I felt I got my value for money of entertainment. The cast are fantastic, the score is as wonderful as it's ever been, and yeah, go and see it, guys. Hope you liked this review, guys. Give it a thumbs up for me if you did. Comment down below, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!